Chelsea Green. I had to say it that way. She's so hot right now. She may not have won the Women's Money in the Bank match recently, but she stole the show in Toronto and reportedly has received a lot of praise from within WWE for her outrageous performance in the ladder smashing mayhem. Ever since returning in 2023 to WWE, she's knocked everything out of the park. She's done a lot to maximize her minutes on television. She's a star for simply playing the character of a narcissistic, try-little but entitled to everything brat to the ultimate T. If anyone's having a real brat summer in WWE, it's Chelsea Green. In doing so, she achieved what many WWE superstars may have never achieved in their careers. And those that have outstanding careers absolutely do this. Get people to care about them. A decade into her career, the future is looking very bright for Chelsea Green. But those 10 years have been turbulent and also incredible all at the same time. Let's get into all of it. This is Sportskeeda Wrestling. What do you think of Chelsea Green? Let us know in the comments below. So join us as we take our ride through the crazy, incredible rise of Chelsea Green.
Stand back. There's a new wrestling quiz coming through. Check out BrainBuster, the daily quiz that tests your WWE knowledge with winning streaks, stats, and more. It's time to see if you're up for the challenge.
Unlike many wrestlers, Chelsea didn't grow up a wrestling fan. Her and her sister dabbled in and out of pro wrestling, but weren't hardcore fans back in the day. Heck, their parents didn't even allow them to watch it. They had to sneak into another room to watch. Chelsea grew up in Victoria, British Columbia in Canada, with her family supporting her dreams of pursuing a life on the road. She traveled extensively before she ever took her first bumps in the ring. Chelsea became a fan, though, of pro wrestling, starting to hear about some of the big names that broke out of Canada. People like the Hart family and Tyson Kidd, who made it to the biggest stage of pro wrestling. Green had the build with a passion for fitness, so jumping into pro wrestling allowed her to play on some of her versatile background and seemed like it was something she wanted to give a shot on a whim. So she contacted the man in Western Canada who's made many pro wrestling stars and was a superstar in his own right, none other than Lance Storm from Calgary, Alberta, Canada, a name that might be familiar with any longtime wrestling fan. In a grueling 3-month program, Green, with a healthy mentality, decided to give it 100% in her time with Lance Storm. Within her first day of training, she knew that she loved the art of pro wrestling and she wanted to do it for as long as possible. Keeping a clear mind, she set her task to 2 simple things: wrestle clean matches and make sure the matches make sense for the audience watching. Even in the earliest stages of her pro wrestling journey, she had an understanding of the importance of storytelling. Storm, as Chelsea Green described, is a wrestling encyclopedia unto himself, and to make sure to drill the basics in before any of his students can really move ahead. It's a bonus to have someone like that at your side guiding you along, because names like Lance Storm have deep contacts on their phone, and they can bring you to the right places at the right time. That last part is important because Chelsea Green revealed in an interview with the Wrestling Divas in 2015 that Storm had a very direct approach with his students. He would straight up tell people whether they should stick to the independent wrestling scene or whether he could actually have them make it at the televised level. In her early career, Chelsea Green credited Lance Storm for everything that she learned. Some of you may remember that she appeared on a segment of Monday Night Raw in 2014 with Stephanie McMahon and Brie Bella. She was still very active on the independent circuit, making her name around Canada and beyond with groups like ECCW. During her Raw appearance, she played a very pivotal role backstage as Daniel Bryan's physical therapist, Megan Miller. This was in the thick of the iconic feud between Stephanie McMahon and Brie Bella. We're using quotes with the iconic part there. Stephanie made Megan admit that she was having an affair with Daniel Bryan after Stephanie taunted Brie about it. Megan got slapped across the face. Ooh, the soap opera drama. This is actually something that, Chelsea Green was all about. She's a big fan of trashy reality TV shows, so this type of story was right in her alley. And though this this role wouldn't immediately turn into an opportunity full-time with WWE, it's a big deal for anyone on the independent wrestling circuit to be even playing a supporting role like this on WWE television. The crazy part of the story is she was originally called one of the Rosebuds for Adam Rose. Yeah, remember all those people that would parade around the ring with him? She even got changed with the Rosebuds when one of the crewmen pulled her aside to chat about her little part. Next thing you know, she's in a room with Triple H, Stephanie McMahon, and Vince McMahon. Imagine how that must have felt for her. Within an hour, she was in a ring with the most powerful woman in the wrestling industry. Remember, this was her first year as a pro wrestler, still actively bumping on the road with the independent circuit and jumping around the world very quickly. Heck, it was just a few months after her official in-ring debut. In that Wrestling Divas interview that we mentioned, yes, it's Divas with a Z, Chelsea mentioned that not long after her Raw appearance, she displayed wisdom and maturity that were rare for someone who was so new to the pro wrestling business. To Chelsea, it was an opportunity of a lifetime and summed up the nature of the wrestling business. You can get opportunities in a flash, you can be taken out of spots at a moment's notice, you have to adapt and work through that. It's a trait that she's always utilized throughout her career. Unfortunately for Chelsea, it wasn't enough to get the call, but she made sure to get a few contacts, obviously, out of that entire role. While her Raw appearance may not have been enough for WWE to sign her in Tough Enough in 2015. Tough Enough was WWE's competitive reality show that they've revived at several different stages in the past few years that would create either a new wrestler on WWE television out of someone who had some experience in pro wrestling or no experience at all. Another factor is that Chelsea wasn't even slated to be a part of the original cast for the revived reality show. She replaced Deanna Dahlgren, who had quit just 3 episodes in. On the men's side, Patrick Clark, who would eventually become Velveteen Dream in WWE NXT, was kind of presented as the only one who had any actual passion and love for pro wrestling. Chelsea was put in that category even though she wasn't a fan of wrestling as long as him. But what she seemed to have a lot more of than other people on the show was a serious work ethic and commitment to the craft. Fans didn't gravitate towards her the way they did with Patrick Clark. Understandably, Chelsea was upset by the fact that she didn't walk out with a contract from Tough Enough. In an appearance on the Pancakes and Power Slam show, she said that not getting a WWE deal hurt her way more than getting kicked out of a game show. She walked out with a big chip on her shoulder, and it wasn't going unnoticed. Her time on Tough Enough kick-started her friendship with WWE Hall of Famer Billy Gunn, whose family she would become close to over the years. It wasn't meant to be once again, but things would begin to shift drastically for her career. 5 quick months after she was eliminated from WWE's Tough Enough game show, she debuted in TNA Wrestling. Yes, the other big televised outfit in pro wrestling at the time. Within a few months, she officially signed and took on the new name of Laurel Van Ness. Although TNA has had a very turbulent history in their own right, they have a strong track record with scouting talent, especially women in their Knockouts division, and showcasing them. Also during this time, she crossed paths with Cody and Brandy Rhodes, both of whom seemed to think that Chelsea and a certain star you may know by the name Zack Ryder, aka Matt Cardona, would be a good fit for Chelsea in a possible romance. Oh, matches being made outside of a ring. The story is actually pretty funny. Neither Chelsea nor Matt Cardona wanted to date another wrestler. Cardona, especially having more experience in pro wrestling and a veteran of WWE, seemed resistant, but eventually they would truly come together as a special power couple. And it was none other than her future husband who would help shape the next stage of her character, Laurel Van Ness. Now, she got herself involved in important feuds pretty quickly in Impact Wrestling, and it was the first real breakout roles for her on televised pro wrestling, being one of Allie's biggest rivals. Maria Kanellis, an established veteran in her own right, was the tyrant of the Impact Wrestling scene at the time, coercing Allie's partner, Braxton Sutter, there to enter a relationship with the turbulent Laurel Van Ness. Otherwise, Allie would be fired. I know, wrestling logic. Allie, for those of you who don't know, was and is the wife of Braxton Sutter. It all culminated in an incredible wedding scene. Yes, a wrestling wedding. What could go wrong? Yes, of Braxton and Laurel Van Ness in February of 2017. This was one of those moments where TNA truly struck gold, and Chelsea Green did the right thing at the right time. We highly recommend you go check out the full segment. It's available on TNA's YouTube channel. It may be one of the most ridiculously satisfying wrestling weddings of all time. It was one of those moments where every single person in the ring played their part to perfection. The crowd was red hot because they wanted Braxton to say no to the rich Princess Laurel and yes to the endearing Allie instead. This was less than 3 years after Chelsea Green's wrestling debut, and she was already stealing a television show on screen. It was no surprise that it got a lot of critical acclaim, something that TNA needed around that time. Chelsea, for her part, did a fantastic job reacting to Braxton Sutter's rejection of her right before the nuptials were completed and becoming a complete mess, while Braxton and Allie kissed and everything else in the ring breaking down around her. It helped Chelsea transition into her biggest character yet, hot mess Laurel Van Ness. The backstage interviews that rolled out this character were highly entertaining, probably some of the funniest stuff that TNA Impact ever presented, with Laurel Van Ness being that complete mess, not being able to rationalize or believe the new reality she was in, even though her daddy spent all that money and imported everything from Italy, and she would sing, "The sun'll come out tomorrow." It was just pure wrestling comedy gold.
The sun'll come out.
Around this time, TNA may have had some great matches here and there, but the mess was the main event. She was proving herself to be a standout player in the character department, and even had a hilarious storyline where she offered to marry Grado so he wouldn't get deported from the United States, only for him to find out she's Canadian and not American. Oh, Canada. She was set to be rewarded with the Knockouts Women's Championship in late 2017, but behind the scenes, there was a little bit of personal turmoil for Chelsea Green. There were rumors that Chelsea requested her release from Impact immediately after winning the biggest prize a woman could win in the company. And if your name isn't Tessa Blanchard, yeah, that's an issue. The supposed reasoning behind this was that Chelsea Green was expecting to maybe get signed by WWE. But on the Wrestling Perspective podcast, she gave her side of this reported story. Chelsea stated that she didn't go from Impact to WWE. She went from Impact to Lucha Underground because WWE seemingly didn't want her. She revealed that between her expenses, visas, flights, and the burdens of just maintaining everything you need to do to be a pro wrestling star, she was struggling financially, even though she was on a television show every week with Impact. Chelsea admitted that she never felt like she deserved to win the Knockouts women's title anyway, because she was still just a few years into the business. Despite being given this tremendous honor to look forward to winning in the ring, Chelsea revealed that she was up all night in her hotel room, conflicted about what she was going to do. Knowing that she couldn't go back on her decision, she sent an email to Impact officials at 3 a.m. and agreed to do whatever was asked of her. Eventually, she worked the remainder of her TV taping schedule and dropped the Knockouts Championship to Allie before Impact officially granted her release in early 2018. Following a short stint with Lucha Underground, her run there was on the pre-shot seasonal series presentation as a very serious character, Reclusa. Yeah, a spider lady who was serious, not the comedy part player that fans were used to seeing from her in previous incarnations. She was also one of the hottest names on the independent circuit, still under the moniker of Chelsea Green. She finally had a tryout for WWE and was finally signed in the summer of 2018. But before that, she was a part of the historic All In event, basically the all-star independent wrestling show that was kind of a precursor to All Elite Wrestling. She was in a Four Corners survival match with Dr. Britt Baker, Madison Rayne, and Tessa Blanchard. Her first run in WWE was a bit interesting and unfortunately, honestly, disappointing. She was slotted into NXT and suffered a broken wrist right away. When she came back from this setback, she returned with a new manager, Robert Stone, who some of you may know as Robbie E from TNA. They were familiar with each other from their previous work, and he was the right person to compliment her over-the-top, holier-than-thou, aren't I the richer-than-you person. She was kind of in that Elias position, where it was clear that she was bound for the main roster. So while she wasn't pushed in NXT, she was reportedly penciled in for a main roster call-up in 2020. But as you know, the timing of things in 2020 were pretty difficult. When Paul Heyman, the creative genius of many things in WWE, unfortunately lost his position as the executive director of Monday Night Raw, she was sent to SmackDown and unfortunately broke her wrist again. She was supposedly set to win her fatal four-way match and really qualify for big things at the upcoming Survivor Series show, but that injury, that very unfortunate injury, marked an abrupt end to her WWE career for the time being. Months later, on the dreaded first anniversary of the 2020 mass releases, Chelsea Green was one of the names who was also released. It was tough times in the world, and obviously tough times for a lot of people in pro wrestling. Following this, she made her return to Impact Wrestling and even went to Ring of Honor. She even got to do a tag team match with her husband, Matt Cardona. But her scheduled match in Ring of Honor was canceled after she suffered a fracture to her wrist. Man, that wrist. She just couldn't catch a break, and we didn't mean the wrists. Still, Chelsea was more confident in herself than ever. She never relented in her belief that she could become one of those standout performers in the business. She continued to prove herself over the next year and a half around the wrestling landscape. Her Impact run was a particularly notable one due to her VXT tag team with Deonna Purrazzo, the Virtuoso, where they both won the Knockouts World Tag Team titles together. But when the door came knocking again, Chelsea Green was there to answer it and not miss the chance. She knew exactly how small the windows of opportunity in the wrestling business are, and having experienced multiple times herself, both good and bad, she was going to take advantage of the next opportunity. In fact, Chelsea Green revealed that she simply texted WWE's head honcho, Triple H, stating that she wanted her job back. And he told her, "Call me."
Hey, I see you're rehiring people. I really want my job back, and that's the only thing I want. And then that was it.
That was all it took to get her job back. Wow. Maybe it wasn't that easy, but I think you get the idea. And just like that, her second TNA run ended, and she returned at the 2023 Royal Rumble, getting eliminated in just 5 seconds, a record for the women's Royal Rumble match around the time. Now, many claiming, oh, she's buried, oh no, she looks ridiculous. That's kind of the idea. Since then, she seems to be having one of the best and notable runs of her career, playing an outlandish spin on Karen memes. Yes, she's the Karen of WWE, who makes it a real big problem backstage and has some serious on-screen chemistry with WWE official Adam Pearce. They've had some really legitimately entertaining things, both on social media and obviously on camera, playing out in the time since that kicked off. In the same year she returned, she won the Women's Tag Team Championships with Sonya Deville, her first championship in WWE. After Sonya Deville suffered an unfortunate injury that would keep her out of action for a long time, Piper Niven became Chelsea Green's new tag team partner. Chelsea Green has seized almost every big opportunity she's had so far to make her way into becoming one of WWE's best comedic characters. But that doesn't mean she's boxed into playing a clownish role, like maybe some people believe R-Truth is. R-Truth is likely going to go in the Hall of Fame and has had an outstandingly long and enduring career. but he's played a supporting comedic role. R-Truth's role isn't that bad at all. He's admitted in 2024 that he looks back at his career, though, and contemplates what could have been, maybe if he was just a little bit more serious. For Chelsea, she's still finding her feet and is still able to do a whole lot while entertaining everybody watching her. Who else gets the most out of playing just a small role sometimes? If she's not featured in a big match or a big angle on that week's TV show, she gets the most out of what she does. We hardly even got an in-ring part of things that she's been able to accomplish. Chelsea Green's NXT Women's title match against Roxanne Perez was a perfect example of what she's actually capable of. Don't say that Green can't be mean and be a hell bell to bell. She killed it in that match. It is one of the most underrated WWE women's matches of 2024. She has a feeling that she can really just go to the next level, and we're just seeing some exciting things from her right now. Even in 2020, when Zack Ryder, aka Matt Cardona, a man that many thought of as a WWE lifer, was released, Chelsea had an idea that she revealed in an interview with Chris Van Vliet. She told her fiance at the time that she accumulated information from various promoters in her 7 years on the independent circuit. She suggested that he take this approach of sporadically appearing in all of these different places so that it paints the picture that he's everywhere doing everything. And guess what? Matt Cardona is always ready with a Z, and he's doing everything everywhere apparently.
I think that you should contact every single company. I have all their information, and I think you should do all of them.
Even when he was injured, this guy had a line out the door for his autographs. This, of course, is a strategy that she has also applied in her career, a tenacious level of not saying no and saying yes to the opportunities that present themselves. This, of course, was a strategy that Cody Rhodes became hot on with the independent circuit in his time away from WWE. Chelsea Green laughed in a conversation with Xavier Woods recently that you can see in the Up, Up, Down, Down channel, that when she was away from WWE, she just knew she was coming back to WWE. She actually laughed her idea off, but a year later, it began becoming a real thing, and Matt Cardona is one of the biggest names in wrestling who isn't in AEW or WWE. They're a real power couple, and maybe they get reunited at some point on WWE television, but that's just neither here nor there. No matter what, Chelsea Green is on a roll. It's true, behind every great man, there's a great woman. Chelsea Green has never hidden her pride for her native land of Canada, and it looks like she wants to establish herself as one of the all-time great Canadian wrestlers. Put herself in the same conversation as Bret the Hitman Hart, Owen Hart, Roddy Piper, Chris Jericho, Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn, Adam Copeland, Christian, Trish Stratus, Natalya, Tyson Kidd, Bobby Roode, and so many others. Chelsea Green is working her way into that type of list. But Chelsea Green looks like she's on a trajectory that'll eventually put her on a list all her own. She has a wealth of knowledge from her decade in the business and knows how she's capable of big things at the best times. The biggest tease we saw of her going on to these bigger things was at Money in the Bank in Toronto, but her time just hasn't come just yet. And like we said, timing is everything, and Chelsea Green's time is still right there. We've seen glimpses of her brilliance in the ring, and her character work outshines many other people that maybe are further along than her in WWE. She knows how to play to her strengths and pounce on an opportunity like very few people. These are the type of people that usually go on to become the biggest stars. And don't be surprised if you see Chelsea Green eventually becoming one of the hottest names in all of professional wrestling. Oh, you watched this whole video? Well, why don't you get down in the comments and fantasy book the wrestling future of Chelsea Green? Who do you want to see her face in a big match? Let us know.